How's it going, guys? We're back at it again on my junk 66 Mustang. In last video, we did all the sheet metal work that I wanted to do. I got lazy, but we did do full pans. We fixed the trunk floor, and we put torque boxes in it. So it's all stiffened up. We got kind of a nice base, nice enough base to build on. Slapped a bunch of rust coating over it. Now we're going to go ahead and do the front suspension. Putting stiffer springs in it, and we're doing what's called a Shelby drop, an Arning drop, which has been around since, the first gen Mustang, and it's because Ford intentionally designed understeer into these chassis. If you're a normal driver, unskilled, you're not a hooner, you don't know how to whip your whip. You come up to a corner and you kind of take it a little too quickly. You turn the wheel. What's going to happen is that car is going to understeer. Your front wheels are just going to plow forward. And what that usually does is people panic and they slam on the brakes, which transfers the weight to the front wheels, gives them more grip. They come out of the uncontrolled situation. What you don't want is a car set up for more oversteer from the factory, because then you come to that same situation, come to that sharp turn, you yank that wheel and the rear end passes you and you end up wrapping it around a pole. But sometimes you want that car to be a little squirrely if you're looking for a fun time, which is what I am looking for. So we're going to be modifying the front suspension to kind of follow that. And the way that Carroll Shelby did it when he made the Shelby Mustangs in the 60s is he re-drilled the mounting points for the upper control arms. Moved them down an inch and back 1/8 of an inch. And you can see I've already got the upper control arm in here. And the reason for that is because I am schizophrenically bad about filming my content. But I'll put the link for this in the description. This is a 3D printed template, and you can order the 3D print online from somebody, or if you're like me and you have access to a 3D printer at your college or at your job, you can just whip it up yourself. And what this does is it bolts into the place of the old control arm, and then it's got 2 points that you can center punch, and that will be your new holes, which will be 1/8 of an inch down, or 1 inch down and 1/8 of an inch to the back of the car. So that's what I've done here. You want to be really precise with the size of your hole. You don't want it to be too big, because then the control arm can, if it comes loose, go back and forth and waller out those holes and make your suspension all sloppy. So I'll just let you know that I had a 1/2 inch drill bit, and that was my final bit size that just barely allowed the control arm nuts to go through, or bolts to go through. I had to file the holes out a little bit to get it to slide in, but I'd rather it be too tight than not tight enough and have that become a slop issue after I beat on it for, a year or two. I didn't want to buy the $100 spring compressor. These are Drivetrain 1 inch stiffer lowering springs that'll end up putting this car a little over 1 inch lowered. But in order to compress those springs to get the control arm in underneath them, what I did is I actually took the shock plate from the rear end, put it over the shock tower. And then I got one of these McPherson strut compressors from O'Reilly's. They let you rent them for free because I'm a cheapskate. And I just used one of them. And look, this isn't like safe, but what I did is I just stuck one thread in there, put it on the back end of the spring, put it through the shock plate, left the other half sitting on the floor over there, and then what I did is I just impacted it up here, and that gave me enough room to slide the control arm in, and it'll come into place. I'm going to need to pull it forward a little bit, but I've already done the other side, and it should go together nicely. How's it going, you guys? We're back on the cheapskate 66 Mustang build today, and right now we're going to be working on the rear axle. So as you can see, this is the old axle from the car. Pretty crap, designed to be behind a 6-cylinder, 4 lugs. Ew, nobody wants that. So what we're going to be switching to today is an 8.8 that I pulled out of a 97 Mustang. So it's got the right gearing that I want. It's got posi. It's really fresh, but the main reason I bought it was because it was super cheap. So we're going to be adapting it to work into the car today, and there's a couple things that we got to do in order to make that work. First thing is going to be to weld leaf spring perches on it, because the 97 Mustang rear end used 4-link. It didn't have leaf springs, it had coils, and we can't obviously retrofit that into the car. So what I picked up with these $19 leaf spring perches on Amazon, pretty thick steel, and we're going to be welding those to the axle tubes at the same distance as those. And then that allow us to fit leaf springs on it. Then we'll see how wide it is in the car. It's obviously going to be a little bit wider than the stock 4-lug rear end. That's kind of fine. I do actually want this car's track width to be a little wider than stock, but I don't want it to be too wide. So there's a couple things that we can do to make this a little narrower if we needed to, but the first step is to actually get it into the car to see how it fits. Now the important thing is we can't just set them on there and weld them. You'll get the axle in there, the angle will be all wonky, the drive shaft will vibrate and it'll throw U-joints, it'll ride like crap, it'll probably wrap when you put the power down. So here's the jig I've got set up to figure that angle out. I've got the axle sitting on the tubes on these jack stands, so it keeps it level side to side. And then what I've got is a level on the spring pads, and I just use a floor jack to jack up the pinion here until I get that pad perfectly level. And you check it on the other side too. Well, I haven't brushed this one off yet, but you can see it's level as well. Now, once I know that those pads are level, what I do is I've got my $4 Harbor Freight angle finder, and you just put that on the pinion, brush all the grease off it and stuff, and you read that pinion angle. Now I know stock is 4 degrees, and we're 4 degrees from 90 degrees, so which is what it reads when it's straight up and down. So I know that we need to weld our spring perches in 4 degrees from vertical. Now, an important thing to note is this axle is upside down because the axle sits on top of the leaf springs. So be careful when you're welding your new perches on your axle, because your axle, when it goes into the car, is actually going to be pointing up to meet the drive shaft, because you want your drive shaft, you want your transmission to be angled down, and you want your axle to be angled up just a tad. That's at 3 or 4 degrees that we want. So basically what I've done is I've got both leaf springs with the shackles tight, so they're in their right spot. They're bolted into the car. And then I just have the axle sitting here. What you want to do is you need to find where actually on the axle you need to weld your spring perches distance-wise. I'm going to jack it up with the jack here, get it kind of in the middle, and then measure the distance from the leaf spring to the end of the actual axle tube at the axle housing, and compare both sides and then split the difference and get them both exact. Then I'll mark that line on the leaf spring pad here with Sharpie on the axle tube, and then I can take it out and then I can level it on jack stands and just weld the shackles right on that Sharpie line, and it should be all lined up when we get into the car. You have to get kind of the gist, because I can't do this with one hand. You need two to hold the tape in the right spot, but you measure off this tape here, and when I actually got it exactly where I needed it with two hands, it was 10 7/8 on this side and then 13 1/8 on this side. But we'll get these centered up, and then we'll do some additional measurements just to make sure I'm really not screwing anything up, and then we'll mark that line. Okay, bingo bango bongo, 12 inch. Okay, bingo bango bongo, 12-incho. You can't see, but trust me, I'm pretty confident about how centered we got the axle here. So the next step is just going to be to mark here and here on the axle tubes with a Sharpie. Then this all comes apart again, and the next step is going to be to get the axle set up over here, jig it up with the angle finder, and weld everything together, and then put the axle back in permanently. What I need to do is order some U-bolts and then modify the shock plates, because they're still for the 2.5 inch, I think, 7 inch. All right, here we go. I got it on the pinion flange there. You can see that I'm 4 degrees from a 90-degree vertical, and that's coming down because you want the axle, when it's right side up in the car, to be coming up, and it's upside down right now. Then I set the pad on there, leveled it out, threw 2 tacks on there. This will get a full bead, but I'm just gonna level and tack the other pad too really quick. And then I'll weld both all the way in, and then this axle will be pretty much ready to go in the car. You know, I wasn't sure what I thought about the SN95 17s that I got, but I think we're gonna go with them for now. They're the right back spacing, and I thought they would look way too big on the car, and it's hard to tell because the axles have full droop because I don't have U-bolts. But, like, I don't think that looks that bad. And what I really like, not only is it wide, so not only in the back do you get like the meats, and it's, you know, it's not crazy, it's like a 245, but you get more than, you know, a 60s Mustang came with stock. But look at that up against the fender. When that sits down, that's gonna be like right in on the lip. Might even have to roll the fender a little bit, which it might be a problem because of this trashed quarter, but ooh, I don't mind that. I think I'm gonna try and go with these for now. But anyway, you can see that even though we took the axle out in order to put the leaf springs on and weld it, and didn't keep any of our references, just the Sharpie marks, it lines up perfectly. And it's sitting with just a little bit of positive degreeage. That's going to line it up with the tail shaft of the transmission as it comes out, and that's going to minimize any vibration that we would see on the road, make it ride and articulate nicely. And overall, I'm really happy with that. So here's what I had to do to the stock shock plates to get them to fit, because I'm not going to buy $100 3-inch shock plates made for this swap because I'm already cheaping out on everything else. What I had to do was lengthen these just because the stock axle housing is 2.5 inches and we're punching it out to 3 inches. So you've got to elongate the holes on all 4 corners. Pay attention to which way the shock mounts when you do this, because you don't want to accidentally elongate the holes the wrong way. Make sure the direction of your leaf spring is the same direction that you're widening. I did that with one, had to do that with another still. I'm doing this with hand files and drill bits because I'm too poor to own a Bridgeport mill, but someday you'll see that caliber around here. Boy, though, I can't get over how mean this is gonna look when it's sitting on the ground with the wide tires. I didn't mean for that 8.8 to end up with a fitment just right. I thought it was gonna actually have issues, and I was gonna have to either put Fox axles in it or flare the fenders, but I don't think I'm gonna have to do either of those. I think it's right where I want it, which I'm just ecstatic about. I can't wait to get the engine and transmission in this thing and just get it to be more of a complete car. Well, my wife got me a GoPro for Christmas, so the production quality of this channel is hopefully going to take it up a notch from here on out. So shout out to my wife. That was awesome. I'm really looking forward to this because now I can work with both my hands, and you guys can also see what I'm doing at the same time. So hopefully I won't forget to figure out how to film everything I do because I have a camera on my head now. But what we're going to be doing today is getting the engine put into the car along with the transmission. So I went ahead and I knocked a new rear main seal into the engine. So first thing we're going to be doing is putting the flywheel in there. All right, looks like that's the way it goes on. The bolt spacing is slightly different, so if you get it wrong and you have like your balance weight in the wrong spot, the bolt holes won't line up. I think that's right. Looks good enough to me. Nice. Awesome. So then we got a split lock washer and a little bit of thread locker on it. And put that bad boy in there. All right, 6 bolts, and with absolutely zero regard for any torque specs here. All right, we got the flywheel on. Now we got to do the clutch. Comes with an alignment tool, a pilot bearing, which I'm not going to use because I put a bushing in there, just because they seem to hold up better. Sometimes when you get, this is a kind of a cheap clutch kit, and sometimes the pilot bearings that aren't really nice tend to fall apart, which I don't want to happen. So I went with a bushing instead. They're simple. I don't really know why people use bearings, to be honest. I used a bushing in the Camaro and it worked great. So I'm gonna keep doing them because they're really simple. Throw it on there, but first, we're gonna take a little brake clean and a rag. We're gonna wipe down the surface, just like a brake rotor. It's got some oil on it from Transit. I don't know how important this is. I'm probably getting fibers all over here that people are gonna say you shouldn't have it in there, but truth be told, I forgot to do this to the flywheel on the Camaro and it was completely fine. This is awesome to do while like kneeling down too. It's so much fun. All right, we're gonna employ this here. Stick this through into the pilot to hold that in place. Okay, now we can just mess with this. This is a terrible idea. Although I'm pretty sure this is where it's supposed to be at, so I don't know why the dowel pins are not lining up. 3. Okay, I guess the lesson from that is to always beat on it with a hammer. This didn't come with bolts, and I didn't have any left over, so what I did is I went and I bought hardware from Menards. which is super smart. But if you remember the Camaro video, I didn't even do that. I literally found bolts in my bolt drawer of unknown grade and quantity that I just slapped on it, and it ran great, and I never had any problems. So this is actually a step up from my usual MO. These are actually a lot more expensive than I expected them to be. So if you're way more patient than I am, which is like probably the normal patience of an average person, then don't buy them from Menards. Just order them online and wait for them. And these are grade 10.9, which is better than grade covered in oil and rusty that you found in the garage. So they'll probably be okay. I think they are probably the least sketchy thing that's going to be on this car, actually. So not a big deal. Just tighten a little bit. And that still goes in and out real nicely. So hopefully our transmission will do the same. Now let's do the bell housing. Kind of smear a little bit on the tip of the shift ball here so it doesn't get worn out over time. I had that happen on an old Mustang I used to own and then on the Camaro's original T5. And yeah, it worn it down to like an egg shape. It was real bad. Then that will just sit right here and it'll clip with the throwout bearing onto the bell housing. Okay, now if I'm thinking about this like a smart person, this fork goes in here. It rides on the stud like this. And then so I want this end in order to install it. I think it just needs to ride like that. Yep. All right, now we've got a clutch fork, throwout bearing on our bell housing, and we can put the bell housing onto the engine. Although one thing I'm immediately noticing here is that my bell housing boss on my block doesn't have any of the dowel pins, which are supposed to align this thing, which is a little concerning. I guess I can see if I can get those locally, or I don't even know how important those are. I don't think I'm going to be safe with just ignoring them because this getting aligned is really important. I'm also not sure why this bell housing doesn't seem to be entirely straight, but that's probably fine. Anyway, we need those two dowels. We definitely cannot put the transmission in without them because that's what aligns the whole thing. And that'd be pretty stupid of me to destroy my entire drivetrain just because I wanted to skip putting two dowels in. So time to go on a little expedition. So this is supposed to be the correct size for the dowel pins, and nobody near me had any. So I think what I'm gonna do is just buy this, cut it down, give it the chamfer on my bench grinder, and see if these will work. Because it's supposed to just be 1/2 by 1 inch dowel pin, and I think that this will work just fine. All right, we got a rod in our vise here, and what we're gonna do is just snip off and two like 1 inch sections of that and then chamfer the edges on my bench grinder, and that should basically work the same as dowel pins. Okay, so we have like one done. Very terrible, just like the rest of this car. Put that in that spot there. And number 2. Okay, now that we fixed that situation, let's see how the bell housing lines up. Looks like it's a nice tight fit with the dowels, which is good. It's a little warped. I don't know what that is, but we're just gonna run it and it'll be fine. And that looks snug. Doesn't look like it. And now it's flush. Okay, so guess we were good to just send it. Okay, I'm gonna find bolts that fit up then. I'm gonna get a washer for this type and we'll get this all bolted up together. Okay, that's gonna be good enough. Ignore the washer stack. Now's the time for the most fun part that everybody loves. It's lifting the entire transmission and heaving it onto the bell housing. And these aren't too bad. They weigh like probably 75 pounds. The strat here is to just pick it up and it's gonna be a lot of guesswork to start out with, but then get it through. Oh, looks like I'm on the clutch pressure plate. Oh, that's probably the fastest I've ever done that. That was crazy. It's like record speed. Wow, I can't believe that went that easily. Okay, that's everything. So now we have 1.5 speed, made it to 1.302, and the whole assembly is nearly ready to go on the car. Just gotta do a couple other things. One of them is that my brace and sway bar are dirty, and they're gonna have painted and bolted up in there before we put this all in there. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. We're gonna reuse that gas tank. We're getting to the stage of the build where I am completely cheaping out. So I'm gonna knock the sending unit out of it, see just how dirty it is inside. And if it's possible, we might just scuff it up, paint it, throw it back in there instead of buying a $100 tank. All right, we're back on it. It is Saturday, and today is gonna be the day that we're getting the engine and transmission put in the car. So I've got it all hooked up on the hoist, and I think we're gonna try and put it in with the hood on, just because I don't wanna remove it and then realign it. So yeah. I'm super lazy. So this should be pretty easy.
Yep. You gotta love, you have shiny, somewhat shiny, and then you just got dark brown.
Yeah, this engine is pretty much sacrificial. But this is I know it's not high enough. We're gonna do what I did with the Camaro, which is fold the tail shaft over and get it dangling in. And I think that's the only way we're gonna be able to do it with the hood on. Kick it this way. We're gonna kind of, get it sideways. Dang. You got muscle going in it. All right. Okay. This is going easier already than I thought.
I almost had
we'll get it. Yep, we'll get it right there. Shoot, I went through. Oh crap. Oh, I went the wrong way with the tightener. Oh, what a stupid mistake. Boy, you'd think I was like 4 years old putting this thing in. Okay, no worries. We're just gonna work with
what we got.
Work with that. There we go. Okay. You know what? Yeah, all I did was completely obliterate my center section here. That's awesome.
And we can fix that.
Maybe this is a stupid idea to do it with the hood in. There we go.
Oh,
yep. Oh, you good?
I got it. We got it.
Okay, don't pitch your hand.
I'm good.
All right.
I have some of it.
You got it.
Yep, I got it. We're good.
And we'll set that down there. Okay. Boy, isn't that so easy to do the correct and responsible thing?
Yeah.
Should have done that in the first place. Whoops. We're gonna let it down until the tail shaft gets close to hitting the ground, then I'm gonna chase it with a floor jack.
We might lift up, look, lift it up.
Oh, am I catching on a rock around?
Valve spring.
Yep, that's all right.
Lift it up.
Okay, I think a tail is close enough where I'm gonna go get a floor jack.
Okay, we are.
And follow the tail shaft.
Here we go.
Okay.
You're good. We're clear.
All right.
Oh.
Yep, we're getting close.
Come back about a hair.
Where are you at on this side?
You need to come back.
Oh, you need to. This whole thing needs to twist my way.
Yeah, no. Oh,
there we go.
It.
Okay, looks like it'll line up. I was worried about that.
It needs to come up a little bit of a hair, but I think we got it.
I'm gonna get it sitting down closer, and then I'll jack up the transmission, and it should line it up. Looks like we're ready to have the transmission come up. I'll make the whole thing meet in the middle here.
That
looks, oop, hitting the trans tunnel. We'll go down a little bit. That looks good. So one of our challenges is that this never came with the bolts for the motor mounts. These are gonna be too small. Maybe this one will work? These look like the right size.
I got a problem.
Oh, just barely too short. Looks like they're not large enough either.
I can't test this one.
That's okay. We'll get one side in and then we can just lift the other side and it'll line it up.
We need to.
All right, we're back from the hardware store. We got some motor mount bolts that I think will fit. There we go, one side. And then the other side, we'll probably have to do some finagling. Look like it's gonna have to come up a little bit. Well, it should be all right once it comes up, just a tad bit. Oh, maybe not. I wanna pick it up closer to here so it pulls it that way. Oh, got kind of close. Now I think if I get a piece of wood in here and I shove against the strut tower, it'll line up.
Yeah.
You got one washer on the head of that bolt? Yeah, try and stuff it in there when I do this.
One side, let me get in position.
Will it go through?
No, there's not enough room at all.
There we go. There's both bolts.
All right. Now I'll get under it and I'll retighten that motor mount. We have a motor.
Look at that.
Hoist is off. There. We have a 5-speed now.
Definitely gonna need a different shift lever, actually.
That's our first lever.
Yeah, but it is not gonna work for us.
No, absolutely not.
Well, this needs to go higher up into the car in order to fit the transmission, but this is too short. So I need to cut here. I basically need to cut this part out. I'm gonna have to probably mess with this shifter arm and bend it a little closer to me because it's set up for a Fox body, but there we go. That's a 5-speed sitting in the car. That's pretty huge.
Also, you may notice there's a gas tank in there. So what I did is I just took the old one, sanded it down, and painted it. I didn't film it because my GoPro died, and I didn't have my other battery with me, but I've got my brake parts just sitting in the trunk here, but painted over that. It honestly was not in bad shape. It wasn't very rusty. The inside of the tank is actually pretty clean, all things considered, so I'm gonna save about 150 bucks and just reuse that tank. All right, so that's about where we're gonna end it. It's been a lot of progress made, so now we have an engine and a transmission sitting in the car. That's huge. I'm actually making a lot more progress over this than I thought we would. That's about 6 months since I bought this car, and I'm not working on it every day because it's at my parents' place. I'm working a job. I'm about to go back to school. So considering the time frame and the amount of time I've had available to work on the car, I'm actually pretty happy with what we're doing so far. So the next step, you'll notice I have the fenders off the car again, is to seal up a bunch of this cowl area, and then there's a couple other holes I gotta plug. I'm gonna fix this tweaked quarter. I'm gonna bring this edge down, or at least I'm gonna try before I have to do a full quarter. Fix that trunk pan, fix the hole at a tail light, and then fix that sail panel right there as well. And then what that should do is that should let us basically be in a position where we can assemble the rest of the car. Also fix that terrible quarter job I did. So I'm excited. I think this is big progress. In the next video, we're gonna be doing a lot of those minor patches, and then we should be in a good position to get the rest of the car reassembled. As far as the engine goes, I have to cobble together a bunch of engine parts. Same thing for the brakes. I still have those sitting in the trunk, but a lot of progress that I am very happy about. So stay tuned. We'll keep going with updates on this project. I'll be trying to do a little bit better about filming and putting videos out in a good time frame, since now I have this sick GoPro. And I'm excited about this. I think the future of the channel and the car is looking bright. Thanks for watching, you guys, and I will see you next time.